Hey guys, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I hope you enjoyed this interview. All right, welcome back. Professor Sylvester Monye is my guest. He's a former special advisor to the President on Performance Monitoring and Evaluation. Prof, good to see you. Long time no see.
Thank you, Madam Nancy. I was going to say Ilo, but
I know you hesitated a bit. You hesitated a bit. So, Prof, good to see you. Did you bring this for me, actually? Because this is really a voluminous...
There are 3 books here. The 3 books are for AIT Library.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much.
And you're part of AIT, so
yeah,
it's part.
Thank you very much for bringing this. This is actually giving me some... How can I read this one? This one is so voluminous. How many pages do you have here?
It's 1,100.
How did you write this?
Well, first of all, it is about putting together something that doesn't exist. We have been having plans since 1946 in Nigeria. But if you ask an average man in the street to give you a copy of first development plan or second, you can never find it, somehow. If you ask anybody today to give you a copy of NEETs, you can't find it.
Or during President Obasanjo.
Or transformation agenda of Jonathan, or 7-point agenda of Yaradua. You can't find it. Talk less of ERGP of
yes, President Buhari.
So what I did was to put all of them together into a volume. So it's actually not a book for you to read. It is a book for every legislator in Nigeria to have a copy in their library. So if you are going to discuss budget, you ask your research assistant to review the plans and advise you accordingly. So it's a major resource.
So where did you get it from? I needed to start from this foundation because I'm talking about development plans. That's what we're discussing today, Nigeria's national development plans and why we haven't been so successful at development planning. And no better person to do that. That's why I invited you here, because I know you've written and you have a compendium of the development plans in Nigeria. But where did you get it? Because if you're saying that average man on the street, they can't find it, how did you get it? Don't tell me that, of course, you have, you were in government, you have you are privy to all of that. Are you telling me that if I go to the national, the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning now and ask them, they won't give me?
I don't know what you can find, but first of all, in your introduction, you introduced me as former special advisor to President Jonathan, which is fine. Before then, I was Executive Secretary of National Planning Commission for 5 years. So I was a custodian for all these things, so it wasn't difficult for me. However, I must say that what actually prompted me was during COVID lockdown, I wanted to do some academic papers on planning. And I discovered that I didn't have needs and some of those plans in my library. I called my colleagues in National Plan and said, can you please send me a copy of needs? And for a week, they said they were looking for it.
They were looking for it?
They were looking for it.
Where did you go?
Exactly.
They don't have a library there?
National Planning Commission. So I was so angry.
Everything can even put on Google Drive.
Exactly. So they couldn't find it. So when you say now, it doesn't mean that if you go to National Planning, I challenge you to go there and get it.
Or so, perhaps they've changed since you last spoke to them.
I hope so. That would be wonderful. So what I have done is to produce something that everybody, every Nigerian, people in authority like you, should actually have in their library. So if somebody was coming to discuss budget 2024, you bring out your plan and say, is it there? What does it say? You know, you go through it, so you are better informed in articulating your questions. And indeed, somebody who is coming to talk about budget should have a plan in the first place. But what you have is that our budgets are never aligned
with our plan, our
to our plans, yes.
That
So,
brings,
but that's another question.
Yeah, that brings me down to the question. Do we really have a development plan? And I know that people in budget and economic planning may just be wondering, Nancy, we have, I know you guys have, because I have also seen 2021 to 2025 plan, even on the website. But I know why I'm asking this question. that do we really have a development agenda in the country? And why I'm asking the question is because we seem to always fall by the wayside. We have a plan. I chronicled what happened earlier. Vision 2020, we're all looking forward to it. In fact, I was part of those that some thematic areas in Vision 2020 looked at it for a while before 2020 even came to be. 2020 was such, it was like so far that 2020 far before we go richer. Now we're in 2024. So do we really have a development agenda in this country, in the real sense of it?
Well, I'm going to be very frank with you. Every government that has come has produced a medium-term plan, or tried to produce a medium-term plan. What a medium-term plan is a 4-year, maximum 5-year plan to guide their work during their tenure. But what we lack is a legitimate national development agenda that has the buy-in of everybody. Let me just give you some examples that you will relate to. FCT, if you look at the work going on in FCT today, whether it's Asokoro Junction, whether it's Nnamdi Azikiwe, you see that a lot of work is going on. Guess what? Wike, the minister, who is doing extremely well, did not plan anything. This is over a 40-year-old plan that was legislated into law
for Abuja.
For Abuja. So whether you like the master plan or you don't like it, you must stick to it. And if you deviate, you pay a penalty for deviation. So what Wiki has done is to come in and follow the plan. We have never had a national development plan that says in the next 20 years, this is where we're going and backed up by law. Vision 2020.
That's what I wanted to ask you. What about Vision 2020? What about Vision 2020?
Okay, let me tell you the genesis of Vision 2010. You recall that we had our first indigenous plan in 1962. I call it indigenous plan because we had plan from the colonial masters before that. But the first indigenous one was 1962. And that was run for 6 years up to 1968. But of course, because of the Civil War, it was extended to 1970. And then 1970 to 1975, there was another plan, Plan 2. Then 75 to 80, and so on and so forth. When it came to 1985, the Nigerian economy was in a mess. You know, we're oil price, world globe price dependent. So we couldn't really fund our plans. That was when the IMF and international multilateral institutions came and said, Babangida, you are not able to execute your plan because you don't have funding for it. However, because they are good plans, what you could do is to roll it over. So you don't say it's for this period. So what happens if you don't complete it during that period? You roll it over. So that was when Nigeria began what we call rolling plan. It's a 2-year program. You roll it over. If you don't accomplish it, you keep rolling. But what happened was that around 1995 or so, the NESG at the time came together and said, look, we can't continue on this rolling plan because we are not able to have a long-term plan and invest accordingly. And they decided, the private sector, wonderful guys led by an astronomical at the Peter side, Professor Anya, all, you know, Dick Kramer, all those people came together.
Frank Wike, I think, was part
no,
of
no.
Okay. During Shonekon's time.
Yeah, during Shone. So they came together and said, look, let us go to Abacha, who was the head of state then. Let us offer to help him do a plan. We don't want him to pay for it, so that they don't give us any excuse not to do it. Abacha agreed and inaugurated them as a committee. In 1997, they completed the first long-term plan called Vision 2010. He accepted it.
That is in 1997.
Yeah, 1997. He accepted it and promised to execute it. But unfortunately, He died in 1998. So within 6 months or so, he died. So there was no scope for him to implement Vision 2010. Now, what happened was that Abdulsalami Abubakar, who took over from him, was not interested in plan. He was interested in handing over to the civilians. So his focus for 9 months was transition. And that's how General Obasanjo came to power. Having come to power, he didn't want to hear anything to do with Abacha. Of course, you know why. So he did his own thing and subsequently introduced NEET, the National Economic Empowerment Development Strategy. That was very well executed because he drove it himself. And not only that he drove it himself at the national level, he also tried to push it down to the subnational level. And that's when we had seats and then leads.
Local government, yes.
So it cascaded down. So that's the best we have had in terms of a national plan. That's the best. Now, what you have as a problem is that every national plan, in quote, I call it federal plan, that is designed and produced beautifully from Abuja, does not have or don't have legitimacy of the type of legitimacy that Abuja Master Plan has. Because there's no backing, no law backing it. You just say, oh, this is my plan. I just give you, we are currently enjoying the implementation of Renewed Hope
Agenda.
What does that mean? Have you ever seen a copy?
A copy of what?
Renewed Hope.
I read, is it not the manifesto?
It's a campaign.
Manifesto, yes, manifesto.
It's a campaign manifesto
yes.
that is what I call...
I was coming to that, actually.
It's a policy campaign document that does not translate to a master plan or a medium-term plan.
But can... Now, let's debate a little, and I hope you come back to what you were saying earlier. Can candidates of political parties, because you're saying you should have a legal backing. At that time, President Tinubu was a candidate. He can't get his renewed agenda document to be legislated upon.
Why must every candidate have their own plan?
Okay, I understand what you're trying to say. Why not we
have a plan
for the country? For
the country, then everybody
keys into.
So if you are campaigning, you will say, I'm going to execute this plan. I'm going to restore master plan. That's what people say in Abuja. We're going to restore the master plan. Because there's a master plan. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Now, everybody's talking about Coastal Road. Some people are talking about Auchi, Lokoja, Abuja Road. Some people are talking about Enugu, Makurdi Road. You know what? None of this is in the plan. There's no plan for them. So a governor comes, or a government comes, he decides his priority. My priority, I don't care about the Lokoja, Abuja Road. I want to do Coastal Road. It's legit. But to what extent is it within the framework of a developmental agenda for the country? That is the real question.
So what will it take for us? So, okay, now let me go back to what you said earlier. In terms of course, if you even go to the website of the Budget and Economic Planning now, you see 2021, I think, to 2025. Is it? Yes, that was done by President Buhari before he left. Should we say, because that's a medium-term agenda.
ERGP.
Yes. And in fact, even in that document, they
ERGP is here.
They talked about ERGP, they talked about different plans that we've had. Should we jettison that? That's one. The second question is taking me back to the renewed hope that you talked about now. President Tinubu is talking about renewed hope. Ministers are coming out now with what they've done since they've been appointed. You will hear them say, according to the renewed hope agenda, we are keying in, this is our own part of renewed hope agenda and all of that. How can we get a national development plan for the country? That's two. The third question, sorry, Prof, is why have we failed in having a holistic development plan that we all can follow, the leaders, those in authorities can actually key in? If, let's say, you're in Labour Party, you will key in into the national development plan from your own lenses, because you may not get to the same direction or get to the same destination through the same way, as it were. Why can't we have a national development plan that is holistic, that is also futuristic, that authorities can key into? So 3 questions.
Okay, first of all, let me say that everybody in Nigeria acknowledges the fact that the first National Development Plan up to the 4th Development Plan were well executed. But do you know the reason? They were military instruments.
So like decrees and...
Exactly. The issue order,
it will come to pass.
It will come to pass. And everybody, whether you're a governor or whoever, the president, Supreme Military Council say, this is where we're going. Everybody goes that way, whether you're a civilian or not. That's one. For civilians, it's a different ball game. Now, we are practicing democracy. What is very exciting about democracy is that it gives you right, but it also gives you responsibility. Where you open needs, or let's take Buhari's ERGP, Economic Reform and Governance Program. You produce it in Abuja, you consult with ministers, you present it to ESCO, and it's endorsed at ESCO level. But what you don't have is 2 things. In fact, 2 things you don't have. One is there is no legitimacy to that plan. In other words, National Assembly has never seen it. They have never put it into law, so there's nothing binding on it. There's nothing you can do with it other than put it in your, if you are very generous, in your bookshelf. Otherwise, you put it in the dustbin. However, for you to have a plan that works, first, the president must commit to driving it, to say, we are going to have a plan for this country. You engage the subnational level. You know what I find also interesting is that if you look at the coastal road, I just want to use practical examples. You see that everybody says it's going to traverse, I think, 7 or 9 states. Okay? Let me ask you a simple question. Is any of the 9 states involved in the development of the coastal road? Have they got a plan to leverage on the benefit of that coastal road? The answer is no. They are just onlookers. They hear, like you and I, on the pages of newspaper, that there's going to be coastal road. So for you to have a master plan, it must be a master plan that is owned by the people, by the country. So once you have it, then the next thing is you legislate it into law. So whoever that comes, whether they like you or they don't like you, will follow it, just like Abuja Master Plan. It can take forever, but whenever you come back, it's there waiting for you. Look at the roads that have been completed.
Completed, actually.
By Wike. They've been there for over 40 years. He has not designed a new road. But because they were designed, approved, and legislated upon by the military. By the military. So there wasn't any issue. Now, there is also something very important. All roads, all projects are domiciled at the subnational level. If you are driving from Benin to Asaba, guess what? They will tell you that this is federal road. Because this is federal road, you are not allowed to touch it. So the governor of Delta State has no power, no right to do anything on a road that belongs to federal government in his own state. In India, you have a national plan, but the implementation of the plans are totally devolved to the states. Federal government of India has no plan, no project. Every project belongs to the state. So if a road is passing through a state, it's your project.
So is the state saddled with the financings of completing
or
the federal will give the states the money?
You get the job and you get the money.
Okay.
The job of the federal government is to monitor and ensure that the money is well utilized. That is how it's done everywhere in the world. You don't have a project that has no ownership. So that's point number 2. What's the other question?
The other question is the holistic development plan.
The only way you can have a holistic and long-term plan is where you put it on the table and have everybody's buy-in. You can't say, I want to build a 10-lane coastal road in Edo State, for argument's sake, when Edo State has nothing to do with it. Because if you plan for Edo State, and Edo State is involved in the plan, they will be able to say, we'll derive benefits. These are the benefits we will derive. So they will plan every other thing to key into that project. So everybody is working in the same direction. But here, you have federal government road passing here, and then you are not allowed to even interfere in the business. So you can't have a holistic plan.
So what will it take for us to have a development plan perhaps for the next 50 years that is also futuristic? We understand the challenges. Of course, from even our transition, military, and all of that, everyone is doing their own thing now. What will it take? What kind of political will should it take for us to have a development plan for the next 50? Okay, we've been adjudged that our population will get to 450 million people by 2050. 2050 to now is like 26 years. It's not even far anymore. So what will it take for us to have like a development plan for the next 20-something years when we are 450 million people in terms of education, total human capital, infrastructure, and all of that? What will it take for us to have a holistic development plan?
It will take 3 or 4 things. One is the leadership of the president. The president provides direction. So the president must necessarily accept the concept of development planning, particularly the long-term plan. He must. Without the president, it will not happen. That's one. 2, stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? The governors. The governors should be asked to provide what they would like to see in their various states over the next 50 years. So you come in, you are coupling together a plan given to you by various stakeholders. That's point number 2. Point number 3 is that National Assembly will look at it and pass it into national law to say we will be doing A, B, C, D over the next 25 to 26 years because that is what the plan is. Then, most importantly, every budget that you present must be aligned to the plan. You are budgeting to execute something. You know, when you say every minister is going to be talking about implementation of vision,
a renewed
agenda. You know what? I'm not able to assess them, whether they've done well or not, because I don't know the parameters.
Isn't that unfair?
It is very unfair to us.
No, isn't that unfair to them, saying you don't know the parameters?
No, do you know the parameters?
By which they are judged.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
I don't know. Can you?
If you take a look at the renewed agenda, for example, President Tinubu has marked, okay, I want to achieve this in agriculture, I want to do this double-digit growth, for example.
Yes.
I think 12% at the time. I want to build a $1 trillion economy for Nigeria and all of that.
There are things you call growth drivers. For you to plan, you say, I want to achieve 3% growth annually, or 4 or 5 or 6 annually for the next 10 years. That's how you eradicate poverty. If economy does not grow at the rate of 10% for 10 years, non-stop, you can't eradicate poverty. That must be understood. 2, if you want to plan, you must say, I want to eradicate poverty, but I am going to do it through the instrumentality of A, B, C, D. So when you are assessing performance, what have you done with this parameter, that parameter? For example, when you go and check our budget preparation, they will tell you that inflation rate will be, go and check will be 4%. You and I know that it will be over 30%.
Inflation rate for this, I think they said it will be 21%.
Okay.
Now it's like 33%.
So it's completely out. Then
but the year is not done yet.
Wait. Exchange rate. You look at the exchange rate. What does the exchange rate say? Maybe...
I think this year, if I'm not mistaken... Okay, no, the dollar to... Actually, I think it wasn't 800 naira for this budget.
Well, something ridiculous.
Yes.
But you know it's not true. So, ab initio, the parameters for the budget is wrong. That's to start with.
And the instances that you can also get, that you may not get some things exactly right.
Of course, that's what they call, there's room for deviation.
The deviation, yes.
When you deviate, you take corrective action and bring it back on course. But where you don't have the basis for those assessment and corrective action, then it becomes a problem. Now, if you say we have to grow at 10% or 5%, you don't grow. You go back and say, why are we not growing at 10%? Is it because the agricultural sector is not doing well? Is it manufacturing? Is it transportation? Is it Nollywood? What is it? That's how you correct. It's a big one.
Yeah. Saying all of this, do you think that as a country we have a sense of planning? Because there's this adage that says, what you can't measure, you can't manage.
Of course.
And if you don't plan, you fail to, if you fail
to plan, you plan to fail.
Yes. So is there a sense of planning in this country, generally? Because this is also a country that people just think, I can just hit it at any time, or I can get this. So is there a sense of planning which has also translated to authorities? Now you're talking about the presidency, even National Assembly, and all of that. Is there a sense of planning in this country?
I will answer the question by asking you a question.
Prof, I asked the question.
Yeah. You see, when you are planning for the people need to be involved in what you're planning for them. That is the first thing. But the government knows best, if you understand the philosophy. Don't worry, we know what you want, we'll tell you what you want, and we'll deliver what you want. The people are not involved. When I mean the people, I'm talking about the subnational level, the governors. The governors are the most important aspect of national development plan. As far as I'm concerned.
Local governments?
Huh?
Local governments.
And of course, it cascades. But let me tell you, I have had the privilege of working at the federal level and at the state level. What you find at the state level is that you come in with your nice, glossy national plan. They will clap for you. They will tell you, oh yeah, this is the best thing that has happened to mankind since sliced bread. They will finish with you. As soon as you leave, they put it in their dustbin.
That's for the states.
That's for the state. No state in Nigeria, no state, you can quote me, no state in Nigeria pays attention
to the national
plan. No state, not one. There's no link between the national plan and the state. Yet, all the projects, all the direction are determined by the state. That is why no state should actually take off on their own. Everybody should come together, agree this is what we're going. So a governor who is coming in to campaign will tell you how he's going to change a state based on the plan.
So doesn't that also, extend the opinion around fiscal federalism in terms of states having more control? Because states seem that the central is where everything happens. And states are not really having even so-called ownership of some of these things that have happened. You give an example now of the Lagos-Calabar coastal highway. So isn't that also part of the problem?
Well, you see, fiscal federalism doesn't necessarily mean that it goes without responsibility. Once you and I agree that there will be fiscal federalism, the next thing you will do is to say, what is it that the federal government needs to do? The third thing is, how much should federal government keep from the federation account? How much should they keep for what they need? Why should federal government be doing secondary school in my village? Why should federal government be doing federal medical centers in every state? If you do all those things, what do you expect the states to do? I know some states...
They're doing primary health care now.
Yeah, yes, if you are lucky. If you are lucky. So there are things that federal government should just... unity colleges. You are saying to states, you cannot run a secondary school? What the states do is they say, that's your problem. They do their own thing, what they want to do. You come to their states and do what you want to do. That is really the problem. We are not singing from the same song sheet as a country. As long as we are singing different tunes, you can have harmony. Planning is about harmony. Planning puts you in a particular trajectory, and it takes into account all that needs to be fed into it to be able to deliver the result.
Do all developed countries have development plans?
At some point, because where we are now is like we're on ground zero. So we have to have a plan. If you are going to London with British Airways, before you board the plane, the pilots have planned the route. They've taken all the wind temperature, they've taken the altitude, they've taken everything. And they can tell you, based on all the parameters, as you enter, they say, we'll arrive in London in 6 hours. Yeah. There's no rocket science. It's all planned. The job of a pilot, once they take off, is not to press.
It's to get us there.
It's to get you by monitoring whether everything is working according to plan. That's why you have autopilot. So once you climb, you get at a certain level, it goes on autopilot. Their job is to make sure that there's no deviation. Otherwise, they step in to correct it. One time I was going to Dubai, and halfway through the journey, I saw the pilot come out to talk to the cabin attendant. I was so angry.
Why did you leave?
Exactly. And I called the pilot. I said,
what are you doing here?
What are you doing here? We're at risk. He said, no. We're on autopilot, but my colleague is there, you know. So that is their job. That is based on a plan. We, in this country, we have no plan that you say, okay, let's leave the local government chairman or governors to implement, and let's monitor what they're doing. We don't. So there is no way we are going to avoid it. We must plan. Every country plans. As a matter of fact, recently I was watching Sky News. I listened to the Prime Minister at their conference say that they were going to jettison a fast track rail travel from Manchester to somewhere, which will be a 10-year plan. But he was telling them at their conference that they are not going to follow that plan anymore because they don't have the resources to execute it. It was debated at their own conference. This is a developed country. So you can't just wake up and say, oh, I'm going to do this. No, everybody has a plan. And that is one of the reasons why, take for example, COVID, during the COVID time. In England, every single move was passed into law. You have to wear a mask. You are passing it into law. You've got to be at home. It's into law. The reason is that there's no scope for discretion when you want to execute some government policy. Policies. Now, in Nigeria, what do? We wake up.
Announce it.
The announce one committee said everybody should wear a mask.
Presidential committee
has decided that we shouldn't wear masks.
Also, reports we should implement it.
That is what we find in Nigeria.
Or wake up, military is closing Barnes Plaza.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you explain all those things? And you expect that we'll make it? The answer is that we can't make it unless we have a plan.
So where does it leave President Tinubu in all of this? Because I can imagine renewed agenda is close to his heart, and there'll be a Nigeria even when he leaves, you know. And I want to see a Nigeria that is better than the Nigeria I'm living in right now. So where does it leave President Tinubu, and even where should pressure, I don't want to put that, but for lack of a word to use, pressure in terms of we need a national development plan. Now, let me read something from the website of the Budget and Economic Planning, the plan, the 2021-2025.
Okay.
So just have that thought in your mind, what I've asked, in terms of where does it leave President Tinubu. The vision, mission, and objectives. The vision of the National Development Plan is to make Nigeria a country that has unlocked its potential in all sectors of the economy for a sustainable, holistic, and inclusive national development. Mission, to effectively guide implementation of programs and policies that promote rapid multi-sectoral growth and development of Nigeria's economy. Then you have objectives that have been cascaded into 5, promoting development opportunities across states, which you mentioned, investing in social infrastructure and services to enable a vibrant, educated, and healthy population, to invest in critical fiscal, financial, digital, and innovation infrastructure. There's still a lot there, but I'm just abbreviating. Establish a strong foundation for a diversified economy with robust MSME growth and a more resilient business environment. Reading these objectives, do you think that, you know, they embody what Nigeria should be? And now it's 2021 to 2025. We're 2024. 2024.
You know, I was there. I find it extremely sad. You know, when I hear this kind of stuff, it reads very well, it sounds good, but what does that mean? What does that mean? The answer is that it doesn't mean nothing. National planning has a law which has not been abrogated, that says this is the work of planning. These are your powers. It's there by law. Then you throw the law away and you come up with some nice glossy statement. What happens to the planning law? The law that says this institution has the power to do this. This institution has the power to monitor, has the power. Where is their power?
Whose power now?
National planning.
National planning, that's the ministry.
Yes.
Now that should be the minister of Minister Bagudu.
Yes.
I guess.
He hasn't got the power.
Bagudu.
You know why? Because it's not a ministry, it's no longer a commission. So when you change the law, well, it's not even change the law. When you jettison the law, you expect to have the powers without the responsibility. It can't work. So, can I ask you a question? Which department in national planning can monitor the implementation of our renewed hope agenda? You have a special advisor on policy coordination,
Adiza
Bala
Usman,
to say, I am in charge. You have a national planning that is
in charge of monitoring and evaluation of
performance.
renewed agenda, performance of president's
Yes.
agenda.
Good.
Through the various ministries.
Good. Now, what you asked me was, how can
President Tinubu
do something? You know what he needs to do? First and foremost is to move the renewed agenda campaign policy into an actionable plan. That's the first thing. Yes, it's good. I like it, renewed hope policy. Yes, but it is not implementable because there is no plan. A plan means you break it down, block by block, to say we need to add this block, this. So it is not there. So the first thing I will ask President Tinubu is allow national planning to be properly reconstituted with the necessary capacity to drive the plan. If you don't have a driver and you have a nice car, what happens?
The car won't drive itself.
That is exactly where we are.
Okay. I think we'll leave it at that now. Prof, is there any other thing you want to say in 30 seconds just before we go?
Well, what I hope that we can do is to really begin to see planning as not a political tool. There is no way an investor can come into Nigeria without having a long-term view of where we're going. If we say by the year 2050, we're going to grow by X amount of, by X percentage, then what is it we're doing?
There must be a plan.
There must be a plan.
That even investors, both local and foreign, can
And
even
say,
key in
okay,
and say, okay, this is where Nigeria wants to be.
So we don't have. So what I will call on the president to do is to really commit, show interest. Actually, his name will be written in gold if he does that. If he gives us a direction, the business sector will key in, the subnational level.
A direction that is legislated upon.
Of course, without a direction that has buy-in of the subnational level, if he can do that, if that's all he does for Nigeria, it's more important than the coastal route.
Okay. I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Prof, for coming. Thank you for the books that you have graciously given to us.
To AIT Library.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
This is a book on ministerial scorecard.
Yeah, that's during President Jonathan's,
Yes.
I guess.
So we have a template to assess ministers, but again, you need to use it. This is the concession, and I'm sure this is close to your heart. It's in your village. We did it, and because of the work we did today, Asaba is the only sustainable, self-sustaining airport in Nigeria.
Balancing politics with policy execution.
Yes.
All right, I think we need to leave it at that. Thank you very much, Prof, for these gracious gifts. We would, you know, do well to actually put it in our library. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
All right, I've been speaking with Professor Sylvester Monye, former special advisor to President Jonathan on performance monitoring and evaluation. We've been talking about development planning in the country. That's it today. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Thank you for watching. In case this is your first time watching us, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, drop your comments as well as like, and most of all, share our content.